All right, we have got another cryptid tonight. We are going to be talking about a creature that terrorized in the 1950s the countryside of Bladenboro, North Carolina. December 31st, 1953 was the start of this, and we've brought back Thomas Kardos from the North. I just did it again. It's NCCPP. It's that. That's. I think it's what we're gonna have him back to say it because every time I do this, and I overthink it, and I always screw it up. So when we join back, Tom Kardos is going to be here from North Carolina Cryptid Paranormal Project. I think I got it right that time. I think we'll find out when he's back on. So everybody, hold on, and just pray for me that I got it right this time, because you never know. Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is white.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, we are back in this episode. At this time, we're going to bring on Tom Kardos. How are you, sir?
What's going on, guys?
From the North Carolina Cryptid Paranormal Project. See, I looked it up real quick. I did get it right.
You got it right, yeah.
All right, yeah. You know, the sad part is, everybody, before we went live, I even practiced it, and you said I nailed it perfectly, and then we get into the thing, and my mind just went, gone. It's absolutely gone, which is not a surprise for anybody that watches this.
Put you under the pressure, man. That's what happens, bro. You know, sometimes that little bit of pressure just kind of drowns it out.
You know, I mean, you'd think after 100 and some episodes, you'd have this thing down. No. And that when that little live thing comes on, it's like your mind just goes blank and you're just like staring at it like, oh, what do I do? Yeah. So like we teased, we are talking about the Beast of Bladenboro. I'm going to put up a couple pictures here real quick so everybody can kind of see what we're talking about here. First off, we're going to kind of do the one of the more official ones that they had here. And this is one. So this started in the 1950s. For everybody's listening here, this is the depiction of, and there's another one that's a little bit more cartoony. That's I really liked too. I gotta like the way this one came out myself. For anybody that this is a little known one to me. When you brought this up, that you suggested, hey, can we talk about this? I was like, yeah. I'm like, I've never heard of it before. And so I looked into it, and basically what we'll start with is the initial thing. It was December 31st, 1953. A resident in Bladenboro found two of his dogs dead. And they had been, they basically torn into ribbons, crushed, and significant blood loss. I mean, they'd just been mauled. So right on the outsets for myself, I'm thinking, as I'm doing the research, cougar, bobcat, you've got something that's going to happen. But then as we get into this thing, you'll see some of the things don't lend to what even a cougar or puma. I mean, this could have been something 1950s, very easy for a puma to have even made its way up from South America, worked its way up. Because I mean, down in Florida, we have there's the black panther, you have the panther sightings. So it'd be easy to get something of a larger size, but And then one I had somebody mention, like, Tom, am I breaking up to you at all?
Sound great.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, somebody was just saying, this sounds like you're breaking up. So, but this, as you're going in here, there's some of these characteristics, and I'll let you kind of go from there, that this is not what a cougar attack. Mountain lions, jaguars, whatever, that size cat, even lions don't do this when they attack. And so, and I'll let you go from there, like what kind of start off what you found and what you're in the initial thing, and then we'll kind of go step by step for people, for anybody that doesn't know this, get anything, but I'll let you get your first take on what your thoughts were about some of the mayhem that this creature was causing.
Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, I know you said December 31st, but there was actually an encounter December 29th in Clarkton, North Carolina, which was, I don't know how many miles it was. It wasn't that far. It wasn't that far from Bladenboro, but a woman, her dog was barking, and she said it was like a feline looking thing, and it was kind of making that like feline screams. And she said, from her account, it looked like a lion and a bear. So that's what she kind of took down, and then then you started having these events happened along Bladenboro in the county of Bladen in the town of Bladenboro. So yeah, I mean it's crazy that this was happening. So the audacity of these killings. I mean, these things were. It was only going after like livestock, like we were talking about rabbits, dogs, whatever was outside, being left outside overnight. You had. These things were having like their necks, their jugulars were getting, ripped open. They were being drained of blood. At one time, they were calling it the vampire beast.
Yeah,
because that's what they were referring to. Because vampire drains your blood, and that's all. But they'd come out, and that's what they see. These things have no blood in them. But the thing is, the way technology was back in the 50s, I don't know if they were able to tell if these things, because sometimes the way the body works, sometimes your blood will go to one area and it'll settle in one area, and you can't see. From the main part where you're looking at, you're not going to go check down by the legs or the backside. You're going to see where the neck is and the head. And if you don't see blood there, you're going to think it was drained completely. But needless to say, I mean, it could have been a cougar. It could have been some kind of mountain lion. It could have even been a large bobcat that maybe was interbreeding with something of like a cougar or a panther, because there's a lot of accounts of these large panthers along the Carolinas too. That's where they got the name. The Carolina Panthers football team was a black panther, and that's considered the wampus beast, a wampus cat. So
yeah, and I think that one, and especially that one, as you were saying, that I was looking at it too. I think when they described it as sleek black and about 5 feet long, that sounded kind of like the panther, like something of that size. Just because that one, I've heard there were even talks of, they look like bears, they look like this, but as we were talking, like one of the tracks, and I think you came across this, they said the tracks were the size of a silver dollar. I'm assuming that they're talking the shell to where it's the larger one, because for a silver dollar, that's not that big.
Yeah, silver dollars, maybe a bobcat, or like maybe a little lynx, or whatever, wildcat, smaller wildcat, lynx, bobcat, anything that size is going to be about $50 print. When you start getting up to something bigger, up to 100 pounds, because they were saying it looked like it was about up to 100 pounds, 4 to 5 foot long, 24 inches at the shoulder base. I mean, that's not leaving a little. That's a perfect description of a panther or a mountain lion.
Yeah, that big.
Yeah, that big paw imprint is going to, because something that small is not going to, 20 pounds isn't going to put a big print down on the ground either. So,
yeah, so we'll kind of, so like you said, that first one that we know of that was related to this one was December 29th, 1953 in Clarkton. And then December 31st, 1953, the two dogs. And this was Johnny Voss or Vaus, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. This one, his account was that the dogs put up a really good fight. There was blood all over the porch, big puddles of it. There was even what he described as like possibly like a pool of saliva. Yeah. And that it killed one of the dog and left it lying there. He said his dad wrapped it up in a blanket, and then when he came back, the dog was gone. So whoever had killed it actually returned, took it in left. So first thing that pops in my head is the movie Predator. Mm-hmm. So you have, the killing, and then all of a sudden returns to collect the body. And we've got, then we have, after that, you say found it. There was the other dog that was killed. They found it 3 days later, and the top of one of the dog's head was torn off and completely crushed. And that thing, and that one, for me, that's the part where we kind of tipped, where I don't know of anything where a mountain lion or anything crushes a skull unless it's a small animal and it bites down. Mm-hmm. But something large like a dog, I could be wrong. I mean, not anything, but I don't know of that it has that bite force, that a mountain lion or panther actually has the bite force to crush a skull.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I see a question about the elevation by M.A. Allen. Mm-hmm. M.A. Allen, the elevation, it's not really high elevation because this is about an hour and 30 minutes from the shore on the Carolina coast. And Bladenboro is a farming community. It's like pretty much a flatland farming community, which is kind of outskirts of woods that surround the towns. So it's not really a huge mountainous area like some parts of North Carolina, like Asheville and Rocky Mountain, Grandfather Mountain, and all that, where the mountains are real high, like near the Tennessee and the Appalachian Trail Mountains. So this is a lower elevation land. So this could be, it could be something coming. It could have migrated from the mountains as well. It could have very well been something of a large bobcat or a panther, or for all we know, it could have been a dogman too.
Yeah, and that's because then that following day, January 1st, 1954, 2 more dogs were found dead at a Bladenboro farm. Mm-hmm. And on another night of January 2nd, a farmer reported that his dog had been killed. So now here we've got another 3 more dogs, and then 2 more dogs were found on January 3rd. So here's a creature that in consecutive days, the first, the second, and the third, has taken out, these dogs. And you were talking about it a little bit as the autopsy was performed. It says there wasn't more than 2 or 3 drops of blood. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things, like I always tell people, you've got to get out of your head the part where modern day CSI.
Got some.
Yeah, I got some feedback. I think it might be on Chris's end. And so back then, I don't really know how they would have the ability to take it and estimate that there's only 1 or 2 drops of blood in the entire animal.
Yeah, like technology wasn't really far off back in the 50s. I mean, there's probably, they could have estimated an amount, and that's probably what they went with, because there's no way to really tell without the technology that we have these days in modern medicine. So I would say the 2 drops of blood was probably just an estimate of that from these, old school 50s coroners that probably were, either lab vets or, maybe worked in a hospital on a night shift, and they just did this the other time.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because, and then it looks like then on January 5th they saw a pet rabbit that was found cleanly decapitated and still warm. January 7th, a dead dog was found in a pasture near a swamp. Mm-hmm. And so now, and then I think apparently
you missed one. You missed one on January 5th too.
There was another one.
January 5th, a woman was she was outside. She heard like a screaming cat noise, almost like a feline noise. She went outside and she saw this thing charging towards her dogs on the porch. And then this thing saw her and it started charging towards her, and she screamed real loud and ran in her house, and then it ran back off towards the swamps. So this area was a heavily swamp area too. It's not too far from the Great Dismal Swamp, I think, is not too far from Bladenboro as well. And that swamp goes forever. And there's just tons of, creatures and whatnot in that swamp. But after that, they had the mayor called for a team of 500 hunters plus from Wilmington to come out into the swamp and the woods and try to, because it started becoming like a pestilence. People were worried. It was almost like a, mass chaos around this town.
Yeah. And that account on the January 6th, for me, that noise like a baby crying, I came from the West, anybody that hears that baby crying out in the woods, you have a mountain lion. Mm-hmm. And that's one of those where we'll get into it a little later. It's a term called mass hysteria. And I think there was a portion of it. And I think what she saw was most likely an actual mountain lion. Mm-hmm. But because of the words getting out in the community, she's freaked out, and so she sees it, and the panic sets in, and so I believe in that one. So we have, and then we go on there, and I think the next account was January 11th, where some people in the cars say it looked brown and runty type ears, and it was at least 4 feet long. So I'm wondering in mine if that, and I'm going to bring up hopefully a photo that's large enough for people to see. And of course it's not going to be here, but we're going to bring this up here. I think this is, if anybody can see this entirely small image, I'll describe it. These people, they have two people that are holding up what is pretty much a bobcat.
Yep.
They look to the bobcat, and I think that's what. So I'm not sure what is going on Chris's end. We're going to take that off right now. It sounds like the whole kitchen just fell.
Yeah, it sounded like something like an earthquake happened over there.
Oh my God, that was awesome. Yeah. So all right, we'll get back. Yeah. So that we're trying out new sound effects on the show. If you can't tell, people. Yeah. I'm not sure what was going on there. So this is when I alluded to a little bit. Then this is when I think the mass panic, and where the word gets out and everybody starts getting on edge, because now, when you have the night of January 3rd, Police Chief Roy Flores, he begins a search with his dogs, but they couldn't find a trail. And then now it increases to now what they called a half dozen brave youths and their dogs spend time searching. And then on January 5th, more than 500 people and dogs are now hunting through the woods and swamps for the creature. And then on January 6th, now we have more than 800 people that have shown up. Yeah,
I mean, we got people from all over. Even I think a fraternity group from I think Duke University or Chapel Hill came to hunt as well, and they were all they wanted to do was they wanted to capture this creature to mount it on their fraternity room, and they didn't even know what they were hunting. They didn't even know what to look for, so they were just kind of walking around blind. They didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, that
was funny. Just a frat house trying to hunt something that they don't know what it is because they just want to hang it on their wall.
Isn't that crazy? Because one of the shows I was listening to just as we're working today, and the way they described it too is, you basically had everything from middle schoolers, middle school age on up, just walking around with weapons, just looking to shoot something. And you think if you've got 800 to 1,000 people wandering out in the woods here, it's not a surprise that it got shut down.
Well, it was pretty bad because the mayor at one point, he was telling people not to go outside at night, and he was saying if you have an outhouse, use a thunder jug, and that's pretty much a pretty much nice way of calling a bedpan a thunder jug. So he was telling people to use a bedpan instead of going to their outhouses because that's how terrified people were to go out at night, because this is when this was happening, was everything was all the occurrences were happening at night. And I see Brian posted, says Jaguars have come north several times. So it could have been a Jaguar too.
Yeah, it's right there, and I'll put that up on the screen. That was that's right. And that's what I'm wondering, if on some of these occasions, and that's one of the things that's going to get awesome. Chris is trying to get back in. What we're going to look at here is definitely on a couple of these occasions, I am absolutely convinced what was reported was a mountain lion, a cougar, and I think that one that described that 5 foot long black, definitely on the outset, having obviously not been there, I would say panther. That this is a good chance, jaguar, panther, something got up here in this woods. But to me, the part that really sticks out to me is on some of these ones where the heads are torn off, the bodies are crushed, and even some of the lower jaws have been ripped off. And anybody that's been around mountain lions, stuff like this, that's not how they feed. They go for the soft tissue first, They take that, and they're not like other carnivores, like lion, where they eat a lot of the carcass. I mean, mountain lions, they like to eat the soft tissue, and if they're starving, they'll eat the rest. But a lot of them, they don't sit here and just consume the entire carcass. Usually that's all other manners or scavengers that come by and pick the bones clean.
Yeah, and not only that too, Craig, but these mountain lions, the panthers, these big cats, they'll also take their prey up into a tree or to their lair. They're not going to leave the kill on somebody's porch. They're going to take it with them so they can keep feeding on it. Whether it's up in a tree, sometimes you'll see a deer, a rabbit, a raccoon. You'll see something hanging up in a tree. That's what they do. They carry their prey up in a tree or take it to their lair, and they'll eat on it when they want to. They're not going to leave it on the porch of where they just killed it from. So it's possible it might have been a rage killing from that, but I don't think so.
And we'll get. We can get into speculation right now if you want to. Continue with that. Myself too. What I, because David Texas, he's like, they won't rip a head off a rabbit and leave it. I'm kind of that same way too. I told Tom and Chris before the show, one of the things for me that I kind of am leaning towards, that there's not a lot of CSI, there's not a lot of forensic stuff back then. These sometimes, they almost like the precursors of a serial killer. Decapitating animals, leaving them for their, doing things to them, basically almost like just a ritualistic torture. And it was one of those, did this cause this panic? And people started seeing cougars and started freaking out and going, for me, that's definitely a possibility, because some of these things, it's really like that. I hang up on that rabbit one, just a decapitated head on a rabbit. It's really weird because it's a smaller animal. If it was a mountain lion, it's going to eat the whole thing. It's going to tear it up. It's not going to just rip a head off and then just keep on going. They typically don't kill just to kill. And so, they usually do it because they're hungry.
Exactly.
But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, especially the rabbit angle? Is just,
like you said, it could be my possible theory, other than being animalistic. I think maybe, back in the 50s, there was a lot of cults. There's a lot of cults out there. Some of these satanic cults, maybe they were doing, their practices.
Yeah.
And can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Yep.
Sorry, I had an echo, but they were doing their practice out in the woods with their, rituals, taking heads off of dogs, whatever, hang them, break them, take their bones out, decapitate, drain their blood, use their blood over, pour it over a rock in a fire. Who knows? But it's like you said, it's too deteriorated to think that it could be just a panther killing it and leaving it there and whatever.
Yeah, Brian about news, it could be the reported size and color and the tearing of jaw and heads. You could be dealing with, I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Batwitch. Yes.
Yeah, and it's, that's possibility that it could be that, but it also could be something completely unrelated that's doing the killings, and that people are seeing the cougars or seeing these things and they're attributing it to this animal, when in fact it could be something like another creature that is doing the stuff. It'd make a little more sense if it was something that was more on the predator of just wreaking havoc and not actually in the process of gaining food, because that would make more sense with some of these killings, because these definitely do not have the mark of something that's eating, because especially if animals that size, if it was in fact feeding, to have that many consecutive days in a row of attacks, that's not hunger. That's bloodlust.
Yeah, it is. And it very well could have been a Sasquatch. A lot of dogs and pets, when they're left outside, they get mauled and devoured and just ripped apart by an angry Sasquatch, because the dogs are the ones that give them away. So what they're doing, they're shutting the dog up. Well, shut up, dog. I'll rip your head off, smack you apart, rip you apart. But still, how is the blood getting drained from these dead creatures? So there's something else going on to take the blood out. That's the question,
It also sounds like rabies. And by the way, Brian, thank you for helping me pronounce it. Yeah, I don't profess to be an expert.
No,
yeah,
no one does.
Yeah, the rabies reactions, and is that a normal? Is that a normal thing for a blood? Or if we're talking about the blood, thing too, is that something that's a normal reaction to rabies?
Maybe depending on the species of animal, and who knows? I mean, everything has different attributes, for the different viral infections as a rabies. So it could, who knows?
Yeah, imagine a cryptid with rabies, like a Wendigo. That'd be awesome.
I want to build a time machine. Let's go back to 1953 and Bladenboro, North Carolina. Let's go find out.
What? Yeah, not only that, but just everywhere. All this stuff was happening around the 1950s. Yeah, the 40s and 50s. You just had, it's like this string of stuff. I don't know, and it's kind of funny you brought that up, because that's one of the things that I've always speculated. Was this because this is the hearkening of the sci-fi era, where people are starting to come out with the monsters? You're starting to come out with, you're just getting into the TV age, where people are actually seeing images as opposed to radio, and you're imagining it. I'm wondering if that didn't have like the psychological effect where people see stuff and imaginations run wild.
Very well could be,
because it's one of those. It's so hard especially when you look into these ones, because they, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm looking for my notes. I can't remember. They went back, and I want to say it was, I want to say it was a History Channel show. They went back and did the investigation, kind of went back and did like an investigation on it. But I mean, what are you going to really find, when you're talking 50 years have gone by? I mean, you're not going to find evidence. You're not going to really find anything unless. So
not only that, everything's overgrown. I mean, the water probably resurfaced in different areas with the swamp, and you got your marsh and just the creek bottoming area. So, and then I'm sure they developed a lot since 1953 in Bladenboro. So it's going to look totally different than it was back then. So it's not going to be the same. There might be a couple resemblance things going on, but not much. I wouldn't say much. Maybe like the old town hall and the old courthouse building, and maybe a couple other historical buildings, but everything else is pretty much new, and everything's plowed over and resurfaced, and popping up buildings everywhere. Houses, food marts, Walmarts, you name it.
Yeah, it's in one of those, and I said, yeah, this year take place 50s in locations. Could we talking a flying humanoid like the Mothman? Yeah, that is definitely possible. I mean, because all across the place you have all of these cryptids of all different things that are popping up. I mean, we're talking everything from the Jersey Devil to, you just go down the list, and these are all seem to just really just everything from the 30s, 40s, 50s. You can just see it kept stepping up, and then we kind of got to this point of almost, I want to say it's probably like the 70s and 80s, when it was almost like it hit a peak, and then it just started trailing off. And then occasionally you'll get something that'll pop up, somebody that'll see something. But I've often wondered about that myself. Why is there such a drop off on all these sightings? Is it because people are able to look and say, "Nah, that's cougar"?
They're being silenced.
Yeah, that could be too.
Government agencies coming in, these alphabet agencies coming in, talking to eyewitnesses, telling them, you didn't see nothing. They're threatening them. They're threatening their retirement, their benefits, their jobs, their bank accounts. You didn't see nothing, or this and this that's going to happen, and we don't care, because we're the people that make things go away, and we'll make you go away if we have to. And that's how they roll. Sad but true.
Yeah, They, I said they're popping up everywhere. It's. Yeah, that's another one here, Laura. People didn't have TVs to get clouded by elaborated stories, so if they reported it, they saw it. Well, and that's the thing, is that they did, and that's one.
Yeah,
I wonder too if that's because you have the Project Blue Book, you have those infamous ones where the last show we talked about, the goblins, that was credited to barn owls.
Yeah.
And it's great horned owls. Actually, I think it was
great horned owls. Yeah. And not only that, then they tried to say they were monkeys from a circus that were painted too.
Yeah, and it's and we've talked about this. People from these areas, they're going to know what a mountain lion looks like too, and so that's one of those where, even though it seems just off the top of your head, you could say mountain lion, panther, but anybody I said, I moved down to Florida here, but I moved from Oregon. We saw mountain lions all the time. If I see a mountain lion, I could tell you it's a mountain lion. I mean, I can just from the way the tail moves, from the way it walks. I mean, you can see the tracks. It's a mountain lion. I'm not going to be talking some tale of like, oh my God, it was this, cat-like creature that, with claws. So I do give some credibility to the story in the fact that people that are in this environment that know these creatures are saying it wasn't the mountain lion, it wasn't a bobcat, which takes you back to that photo. So why did those, other than just the publicity of saying, hey, we got it, why did those guys grab the bobcat and string it up that we got the beast?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if Chris is back this time.
Chris.
He might be back this time.
Back.
There he is.
There you go.
I still can't see Craig, but I'm back.
All right. Well, he just needs to switch internet providers. That's all that needs to happen.
As long as there's no more bombs dropping in your studio, you're good.
Yeah. That was awesome, by the way. Just a little side note. Whatever that crash was.
What happened?
It sounded like you did a kitchen remodel. All of a sudden, you just hear this loud crash. So,
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. So it's the specters on your side. Yeah. Somebody, David from Texas, he's like super soldiers. He's talking about experiments, escape possibility. Yeah. That's the thing.
Camp Lejeune isn't too far from. It's maybe 100 miles from Bladenboro, I think, or Camp Lejeune, Fort Bragg. All those Army military bases, they're not far from the shoreline and Bladenboro. So who knows what they were conjuring up underground in these bases back in the 50s. Maybe they're on the start of something, And
Brian, I also says military doing experimental ops with cloaking and extreme energy like the Philadelphia experiment. I could actually lend a lot of credence to that being the cause, that some of these cryptids that we're seeing are stuff that isn't from this world, that this somehow they got out. And that's because we talked about the Van Meter visitor. Here's something that your everyday people that just from all walks see this creature and then it's gone. They don't see it again.
Yeah. So
same way with this monster. What if this was something that got out, like you said, terrorized the countryside and was captured? They actually collected it. And that's why it seemingly just almost overnight just stops.
Not only did it stop, but they also called the hunt off because they were worried about all these people running around the woods with guns. Back everyone's walking around with double barrel shotgun. Back in Bladenboro, North Carolina, they're probably drinking moonshine, walking around the walking around the swamp, swinging back some moonshine. Oh, they see something. The first thing they see, they're raising that barrel and pulling that trigger and yeehaw. So who knows?
But I mean,
the town banker's dead.
Even if something got out, you would think there would be some old guy who retired from the military who would say, back in my day, this thing escaped and it ate up a bunch of dogs and now we captured it and we sent it back to where it belonged.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but it'd be just as easy to do that. It's just like, it's that crazy drunk guy that, that just talking about, aliens again, creatures that have escaped out of the pit, and everybody's just like, oh God,
There's Brian again. He's got a good one. You want to put that up?
That's it. Yeah, I'll put that up. That's the record-breaking size of Chicago Mothman type creatures. Fermilab, the first collider, is back online. That's good to know. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, the first Hadron Collider was actually done in Chicago and it's back online. And guess when they're all seeing these new Mothman sightings? They're in Chicago. Makes proofs in the pudding. Good job, Brian.
Now, wonder if that's one of those. And that's one of those things too. Is might have to look into that. Have they had a lot of this type of activity over at the Hadron Collider?
Did one in Switzerland?
Mm-hmm. Because that's what I'm wondering about.
I do. I mean, I guess you'd have. We could probably find out doing some extensive research, but they're probably gonna. It's not the USA. It's another country, so they're probably gonna keep stuff like that at bay.
Oh, Brian, you don't have to stop, man.
No,
this is awesome.
Brian, you're the wizard, Sir Brian. Thank you for all the knowledge you bring.
Yeah. No, and that would be something to look into too, because if that is the case,
mm-hmm.
where you have, some experiment like this is bringing these things in, that would definitely be worth looking into to see if Switzerland has had an uptick in high strangeness reportings, because that I don't know. I mean, because we're so focused on us that I haven't spent a lot of time looking across, too much, other than, because everybody knows about the Yeti, about stuff like Loch Ness Monster, about these things, but I don't know of too many people that have gone.
Think about it. You got the Swiss Alps. It's a perfect place to put a base in those mountains.
Yep.
And maybe it even goes to a hollow earth, like in Antarctica. There's a spot where they say it'll take you right to hollow earth, and the Nazis found it back in the 40s. So anything's possible.
Well, it's completely uncryptid related, but have you ever seen the abandoned, the mysterious? It's a show geared just on abandoned structures, and one of them was, this guy bought it. The Swiss, during the World War II, they built inside the mountain. They built a defensive base. They weren't supposed to, but they actually have gun turrets and everything in the mountain.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so you have this whole thing. I mean, I didn't even know this existed, and so it'd be well within. There's something about the Europeans that like building underground. They like building. I mean, the Nazis were huge on underground structures. I mean, they built underground stuff everywhere.
Oh yeah, well, we raided them back in 45, 44, 45. I mean, we're finding all kinds of stuff that they had underground, and we kind of took it and claimed it as ours, and took their scientists, and what do you know? Operation Paperclip comes, and we start shooting rockets into space and taking men to the moon. So,
Laura, they're down in Antarctica.
Yes, they are.
Is where they are. That's where it's. Get that in. I think, did we lose Chris? Nope, there he is. He's back. I'm like, Chris has got to put more quarters in his machine. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm cutting in and out tonight.
Yeah,
so that's
that's a good one.
That's Brian. Talked about again. They shut down Firm Lab in 2010. Brian, you're going to make me do a show on Firm Lab if you don't stop.
Brian, you're going to come on next time too. You're invited, Brian.
Yeah. So Brian, if you're open, I might actually reach out to you. I might bring you on, and we may talk about Firm Lab. So if you're open for that, so just there.
That's actually when they did start talking about the Mandela effect, and it makes a lot of sense. Wow.
Yeah, that's in. You get to those things, and you wonder, as we're talking about like the beast, you wonder if some of these things aren't government experiments that have escaped. Because we did one of our first episodes on the chupacabra, and I honestly believe that was probably something like Dr. Moreau type experiments that were going on.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say the island of Dr. Moreau, and if you remember Long Island, New York, the Montauk Island, that place was infamous for doing it was labeled as the CDC experiment lab, but they were making stuff in that. I mean, you saw that little hairless beak thing on the beach, like the picture from 20 years ago. They were building stuff, making things underground in those labs that they don't, they're not going to ever talk about.
Yeah, it's so Brian, keep safe. And he said he's under a tornado watch. Yeah, absolutely. And while we're talking about, you just want to wish everybody thoughts, prayers, or go out to everybody that was Hurricane Ida. That was devastating, that thing. So everybody, thinking of everybody that's suffering under that. Obviously, hopefully they can start getting power restored in some areas, get people back.
Yeah. My good friend medic, he's actually out there. My good friend Rick Lara, lieutenant from the Texas Cryptid Project and Dark Woods Project. He's a lieutenant medic, and he's actually they sent him out to Louisiana to go help out with people and take care of them and whatnot, because they're just so understaffed. So hearts and prayers goes out to everybody out there.
Yeah, and that's see what we got right here. Yeah, it came to one of the episodes in New York. Officials came out to capture Dogman, took all his SD cards. Got to be a military super soldier. Mm-hmm. I don't know about this. I haven't looked into a lot of the super soldier stuff, so that's another one too.
That's a good one. That's really good. So if we want to really quick, if you want to jump back to,
let's get back to the beast.
June 13th, they trapped trappers. They trapped a bobcat. It weighed 25 pounds. They hung it from a flagpole in town, And the mayor pretty much said this is the beast that's been killing everybody's dogs. A little 25-pound bobcat that they hung from a flagpole. And pretty much after that, everything settled down, and they started doing these festivals. But like me and you were talking, Craig, like he was using this as a tourist attraction scam. Like, hey, keep coming, come here, come capture the beast, or come hang out to the Beast Fest and generate money in the town. And that's what they were doing. Kind of like Jaws, when Amityville, 4th of July scene when the mayor's like saying, all these people here, who cares about the shark?
Oh, I know. Yeah, Boost. That you've got Bob, who serves as a mascot there, for the Beast Fest, like you said, and that's and I think one of those, in a way, it's like the Mothman Festival. Mm-hmm. I actually think it's pretty cool that towns can, take advantage of this in a way to help bolster, the economies for these cities, because this is one of those things that, even though, we're not going to settle the debate of whether or not it was a cougar, a bobcat, or an actual creature, but it's cool that people can still come together, kind of just compare stories, see the things that are set up. I mean, is there going to be some tourist trap stuff? Of course. I mean, that you're going to come see, I'll show you the exact site. This is where the dog was decapitated, and you come back the next year and it's a different place.
They'll probably have tractor tours. They'll pull you on a tractor and show you where the path of the beast took out all these dogs, and that kind of thing for $25 a ride. But I'm sure it's still fun to say you can do that, and I'd probably pay the $25 anyway. Just so
the two guys hold the bobcat with cutouts, so you can put your own head in there.
Yeah,
it has the one that's holding up the bobcat.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. It was one of those, and as we're talking about too, this is one of those ones that definitely highlights some of the issues with mass hysteria. Mm-hmm. How things, if not kind of tampered down, it can run wild, and this could have likely become an absolute tragedy. To where, like you said a few minutes ago, that you could have had somebody just shooting shotgun, killing people, mm-hmm. thinking that it was a creature crawling around in the bushes. And, you may have actually ended up with, the Beast of Bladenboro massacre, where just gunfire just erupts. But this one, like some of these accounts, like this one for them, and, with your show. So if somebody comes up to you right now and says, I captured a Bigfoot, and I come up here and I walk up with a photo of me stringing up a bear cub. It's who accepted that?
Somebody did for $50,000 about 10 years ago. If you don't remember that story. No,
but it's kind of like that. Go ahead and tell that story real quick. That's if you remember. If not, we can get it on another time too.
I think the guy's name was Rick Dyer. Another guy's name was Tom. I can't think of his last name, but his father was actually the one that was offering $1 million for the bounty of a body. So I think this guy, his name was Rick Dyer. He comes to they have a freezer, and it's supposedly it's a dead Bigfoot, and it winds up being just a bunch of animal parts wrapped up in like a fur suit, like a fur monkey suit that they froze, and they reveal like the parts while it's frozen in the freezer. And, it wound up being concluded that it was a hoax maybe a couple weeks later, but, these guys still got the $50,000 to, come on TV and show a bunch of animal parts in a frozen monkey suit. So, hey,
oh my God,
more power to them. When you're about the dollar, that's what you'll do. You'll stoop down to that level to prove something when you can do it the right way. And that's my take on it. So,
yeah, because, you think
Tom Biscardi, that's the guy's name. Tom Biscardi. You've had to heard that name before. It's been
the name does sound familiar.
It probably rings a bell. He was one of those Bigfoot that goes around the country and paying people to, show them whatever he can, the areas where they hunt, and he'll exploit that area and try to hunt the Bigfoot and claim a body from that area. Him and his dad been doing it for years. Because
I was looking back at the thing. So, I mean, kind of like the example. So if I come to you, like you saw this beast and you've reported what you saw outside, and I walk up with a bobcat, why are you accepting that as an answer? Because that's one of the things that sticks out to me to some of these inconsistencies is like, you saw a 5 foot long creature that, huge, not a normal, kind of like a distorted feline face. I mean, it was a giant, it didn't look like your normal mountain lion proportion. And then, like I said, these two guys just come with a small 2 foot, like I said, I think they said 20 to 24 inch high.
Yeah, 25 pounds.
Yeah, bobcat. And you're like, that's not the one I saw. It didn't have spots. It's like, yeah. And so, obviously it had a long tail. It didn't, and so you have all these things. You're just like,
it was the patsy to take the witch hunt away, to make the witch hunt go away. That was the patsy animal they had to kill to make the witch hunt go away. And it worked, Everybody calmed down after that. Everyone felt safe again, and everything went back to normal. Not too long after, the little bobcat was strung up on a pole.
Yeah, I said, I'm sure many didn't accept the bobcat. They just recoiled and stayed frosty. Yeah, probably. You probably had the guys that down there at the little coffee shop. So, nope, that wasn't the one I saw. It doesn't keep going. That's not. And they're like, yeah, that mayor thinks that we're going to fool for that one. Nope. It's just, yeah.
Billy Bob Cray Cray. That's a funny comment right there. Sorry.
No, that's yeah.
I think wasn't Andy Griffith involved with the whole thing? I've heard something about Andy Griffith had something to do with this. He might have had something to do with his show that he was doing. Well, I could look
that up real quick. I'm not sure.
And we could go back to the 2007 too when it came. Yeah, back.
Go for that one. I'm looking that up.
I don't have to go. Yeah, okay. So 2007, it was in Bolivia, North Carolina, which isn't that far. It might be 45 minutes tops from Bladenboro. So, see, a guy named was Bill Robertson, and he goes outside. His pit bull is laying next to a pole, and he's like going to get it, and he goes check on it, and it's not moving. So he goes, he notices it's dead, and he goes to bury it. He buries it overnight. The next day, the thing is unburied, it dug back up and set in the same spot. So they did a whole new investigation. And, that having his dog attack, they checked and they found a 4.5-inch diameter print of like a feline cat, like a large mountain lion print. So they did some more. I think that was on Monster Quest or something like that when they brought it back. But
that was the show, Monster Quest.
Kind of brought the whole beast of Bladenboro back into the spotlight from this one encounter. And I think it's sad the guy lost his dog and all, but needless to say, that very well could have been a black panther, because black panthers have been seen all over the Carolinas over the years. I mean, hunters have seen them throughout the whole state. These things are just being, they always say that there's no black panthers in the Carolinas, but too many people that have just come to sighting have seen them and spoke about it. So there's no way it can't be impossible, because like I said, some things that they say are extinct or not can't come out into your area. It's false. It's falsifying statements. These things are coming out everywhere, and just because one person says it's not true because a government official says no, they're just trying to cover it up, in my opinion.
Yeah, they looked as you were looking there. I found he was from the area.
Okay, yeah.
And that's I said he was a town one. I said. There's a couple. We'll get too sidetracked to me because there's like another guy that was in the traveling circus. His name was Dick the Half Man Hilburn. That was quite the name. He's a tattoo artist. Yeah, but
was he in like traveling circus or something?
Yeah, traveling circus. Yeah, it's here. I'll bring it up here on screen. It's one of this North Carolina ghost.com, and so here he is. There's Dick Hilburn. Professional tattoo artist.
Yeah, that's great way to spell it out when you're a tattoo artist, I guess.
Yeah, don't go to him for word tattoos. Yeah, wow. Yeah. So he's not the one you want to go to because you want something spelled correctly.
Now, do you want to go further back into history? Because I got something else that I found that I pulled up as well.
Yeah, go for it.
So in the 1920s, they had something called the Beast of Briar Creek in Charlotte, North Carolina, which isn't too far from me. Yes. Briar Creek is probably 10 miles from me. It's a long creek, and has some good wooded area with a long creek that runs around it, and it kind of cuts through like an overpass. And there's new roads that come around it now, but there were similar attacks back in the 1920s, and they called it the Beast of Briar Creek. And that was, I thought that was kind of cool because I live in Charlotte, and this was in Charlotte, North Carolina. So maybe this thing was kind of, maybe it was migrating back and forth. Maybe it, I mean, from 20 to 1953, 54, maybe it had some offspring. It died. The offspring, migrated to Bladenboro and towards that area to get away from Charlotte. Was starting to get more populated, over the years. So they went to the area that was less populated, which is Bladenboro. Back then, I mean, it was like Green Acres,
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Normie, which was a Lake Norman monster, and they say that was come out in the 1990s, and Lake Norman's probably 45 minutes from my house. Huge lake area. They actually have a huge Duke energy plant out there, and there's all kinds of sightings of cryptids out in that area. But this is they call Normie, it's like a crocodile-like monster, and they even compare it to a plesiosaurus. So I think that's kind of cool too. When there's a lot of stuff going on in North Carolina.
Oh yeah, I know. As you're talking about that, I was trying to see if I could find a picture for people, but they're not.
So what do you think makes North Carolina a hot spot? Because there's a lot of stories around North Carolina.
Well, I do know that Charlotte, someone that I became friends with recently, an older researcher, he actually told me there was a lot of mines in Charlotte. And in the Charlotte region, there was actually a lot of mines that were being done, and they kind of left the caves and abandoned them and kind of built, set it up and built buildings next to it or on top of it as well. So I think with the mines, you got the mines underground, you got all this water moving around the mines, and then along the creeks and the valleys and whatnot. You have the lake. I'm just thinking everything combined: mountains, lake, food source. You got water for energy, caves, old tunnels to hide out in. I mean, why not? It's perfect environment for anything if you scatter it out. And then you got the mountains when you go towards like Asheville and Rocky Mountain as well, and over towards like Tennessee area. That whole area is just bombarded mountains, you name it. And that's where a lot of dogman sightings are as well in the Tennessee area. Bigfoot, dogman. I mean, it's just Appalachian Trail. It goes, just one big loop.
Now, as we're wrapping up here too, one of the things too that I wanted to get with you, especially with the North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project, what is a good rule of thumb for people? Is there like criteria, like when you take a photograph, something like that, to where you can take it and you can, base it on a criteria to where there's nothing here? Because you take a picture, you see, like most people, the pixelated, trees. You see some people will be like, oh my God, I see one right there. But then you'll have everybody else that's like, I don't see a thing.
Right.
Is there a certain criteria that's really good, like you can use to help gauge people? Like you say, no, unfortunately, I don't see anything here. I know you want to see something, but I don't see it.
I'm going to say if you can train your eyes to see what's past what you're supposed to see, like I was told before, I was able to kind of, I wouldn't say filter it out, but when you can kind of pick things out to see what you're actually seeing, to see something that's in this picture, look for something that doesn't belong there. Look for something like for a branch, look for normal branches, leaves, foliage, but look for that one spot that does not belong there. And I'm not talking about pareidolia. Pareidolia is totally different. This will stand out like light and day. Like you can see the shadow, you can see the form of a head. I mean, you can see all kinds of, I can show you all kinds of pictures that have been shared with me and some that I have as well. And also with the new editing process with the new iPhones, you could do 4K shots, and you can edit the hell out of these things. You can bring out the hue, you can take out the the pixelation a little bit, and you can kind of clear it up and brush it up a little bit, and you can actually bring these things out and you can see a clear shot. But my true opinion is, like people try to say, like the night vision, the infrared on night vision is like a deterrent. Well, here's my theory. What if you go back and get the old 8mm style film that they did with the Patterson Gimlin? That doesn't have any of that kind of, it's just old school real film that just, I guarantee you'd be able to catch something really good with that if you used it and you got something, that kind of equipment. But like I said, nowadays stuff like that's considered antique and it's really expensive to get a hold of. And if you can find something that still works, more power to you. That would be the best tool to use to find something out in the woods.
And then kind of the follow-up, and then one real quick, M.A. Allen is like, do you have a website, calendar, t-shirts available? Asking for a friend.
No, I actually have a group. It's called North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project on Facebook. I have the same, the name of the same. I have a YouTube channel, and I it's not really big. It's just a growing channel. I just do, I want to get the truth out there. I'm not trying to be Zach Bagans of the crypto world. I'm trying to be me and just show people the truth out there and just get, bring the truth to the people, because these big name corporations, I'm not going to say what, but they're trying to keep things hidden from the normal guy, people out in the world. So if we can get the truth out there and get these people woke to what's really going on, whether it's cryptid, whether it's, portals, space, aliens, you name it, it's just that's my plan and my ultimate goal. And I see Brian says, take 2-3 pictures back to back. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Take multiple shots. And I've also been doing shots where you take your camera, like say you got your camera and you put it on selfie mode, and you're in the woods and you got your selfie, you put your camera like that and you pay no attention to it, you take random shots. You might get something like that because you're not looking at it. Your camera sees it, but you're not looking at it. I've gotten some pretty feasible pictures just by doing that, and that's a good way to do it as well. And
then another one too is like people that see stuff like on a normal like hiking route, they see stuff, a lot of the times they take the same photos. At what point is it, I don't want to say necessary, I go, because one of the things I'm always like, if somebody walks up to me and says, I saw this, I believe them. Right off the bat, I believe them. If they tell me that they see it hundreds and hundreds of times, I've got all these things, I get to the point where myself as a skeptical believer, at that point, you should be able to find something physical, a footprint, hair, there should, because I've seen some people that's like, I see dogmen all the time. I take photos of them all the time. You're like, at this point, it's like, for me, really? I'm like, where's the hair? You should be able, if you see them all the time, there should be some physical proof now. You can't just like, all I've got is I've got a blurry photo. That's my proof. I'm like, no, you say you see them all the time. It's laying there taking a nap. I'm like, walk up, you should be able to get a sample. You should be able to audio record the breathing. If it's resting, you should be able to hear something like, and that's where I was wondering, at what point do you feel like that is a necessary step to take in the investigation process? Well, here's the flip side to that. Everything isn't always what it seems, because you could be on the flesh and blood. You hear me? Mm-hmm. Yep. You could be on a flesh and blood, boat about this, but at the end of the day, in the long run, there's a lot of quantum physics theories about these things, how they can move around, they can transport, go into a portal, disappear, go into another dimension. And I'm starting to be on this board from all the what I've been hearing and just things I've been seeing as well, and people's encounters. One thing can go from one spot to 1 mile in like 2 seconds. There's no way it can run that far in 2 seconds, and there's no way when you have it timed out, there's not a second being there because it was dead quiet over there. So these things are going through, I would say maybe a portal, maybe some rifted dimension, or jumping on the other side of a realm to get on that side. And I'm actually on that. I'm on that card. I'm not saying I'm going to play it completely, but it could be both. It could be some have that power, some have that ability to alter frequency, vibration, and energy, and some of them maybe just they don't care about it. They just basic old Magilla gorilla grape ape walking in the woods. Yeah, okay, no, that's awesome. Yeah, it was I was been meaning to ask you last time, and I was just thought this time I'd get it out there, because that's always that one. It's like if somebody's walking out there, takes photos, like I think I saw something. It's like, to me, I'm like, it's one of those, especially as you want to build a credible, thing. It's just, I feel like there has to be, like any scientific, there has to be a set of, steps that you need to take to gather the evidence. It's almost like chain of custody, to where it helps for somebody who isn't a believer. When you can present this stuff, you're like, oh yeah, wow. Here's this. I took this was the air temperature. You do all this, even in ghost investigations. If you take all this stuff, it lends more credibility to the thing to somebody that's not a believer, that is a skeptic off the bat.
I was told to take out an EMF detector too when I go next time I go out, which I haven't got one yet, but I'm looking in to get one for my equipment to take out when I do any kind of field investigations, because they say there's certain areas, like say you see a tree break or an X or a bend, they say these spots will generate more EMF. It's playing next, away from it, and then you go to that exact spot where you see this structure, it's going to generate more EMF. So I'm going to try that out, because I've been told many times that it's going to blow your mind away. So definitely looking forward to doing that. But have you read the what's his name, Ron Moorhead? Have you read his book at all?
I don't think I have.
If you read the Quantum Bigfoot, I mean, once you start putting two and two together, everything just starts to make sense. I haven't read it completely, but I've read a couple chapters into some online, and it's amazing. It'll blow your mind away if you can get a chance to get, even if you get an audible version of it. It's insane.
Okay, yeah, no, I'll write that down so that way.
Ron Moorhead. It's Quantum Bigfoot. Yeah. And this it's the same guy that got the Sierra Sounds back in the 70s out in was it Montana or Colorado, or maybe even Washington, or I forget which state it was, but he was the one that got those Sierra Sounds where you hear the samurai chatter and what all that crazy,
That's no. Well, awesome, man. So, all right, real quick. So we'll do the wrap up like we did last time. All right, who we'll start with you, Tom. Are you a believer in the beast of Bladenboro? Do you think it was an actual creature, or do you think this was just a combination of something happened and mass hysteria took over a town?
I think something happened and mass hysteria was the big factor, but I also think that it was something that they didn't know what it was. They probably still won't know what it was, because it was really intense, because we put all the culprits out there and we put two and two together, and you can't, one thing can't do this and the other thing can't do that. So it has to be something that we don't know about, or something that just wasn't portrayed back then. Pretty much it could have been a cryptid.
Yeah. How about you, Chris?
Absolutely, I'm a believer. Things happen so close to military bases. In all of our studies, everything is not too far from bases. And he touched on a very good point when he said that there's a lot of caves, a lot of rivers, a lot of foliage for them to hide. So I'm a believer.
I'm going to be like on the NFL panels when you have that one person that picks the other team. I am on the fence to the other side, where I think this is more on the order of they saw something natural, but just under a panic. But I still think there's, like I said, there's a slight possibility. I'm not entirely sure on this one, just because of a lot of the accounts. I mean, clearly say 5 foot long, black creature. I'm like panther. I mean, I'm seeing these creatures here. It's just the only thing I give you guys for me is some of the stories of like the decapitations. That doesn't make sense. And so, as I'm talking here, I might be convincing myself to join the team. I think I'm going to call myself on the fence.
Yeah, it's okay to be biased. I mean, everyone's got their own opinions on things, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because a true researcher has to question everything and can't really give an answer until you have all the evidence based upon your face to base your answer off of. So there's nothing wrong. I mean, I've done that many times. I give you credit for going that route. So kudos to you,
David. I think this might have to be it. Okay, are you Mulder or Scully on this? I think I'm Director Skinner. On this one, right? On this one, like I said, but we got two Mulders. It said Scully's in the room, but I think I'm more, I'm Director Skinner. So, all right, well, awesome, everybody. I really appreciate, thanks everybody for watching. That was a lot of fun. We'll definitely have to do this again. I think
Brian, I'm up for it again, but Brian has to come on, because Brian is like. He's an encyclopedia, and he has a lot of encounters with cryptids. And he was actually, I'm sorry, Brian, but I'm going to put you out there. Brian was on Discovery Channel Plus. He was on, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but he was on Discovery Channel Plus with abduction in Hudson Valley, where he was on, he had his own documentary on there with Al Santoriga, and they were talking about UFOs, and they were showing some kind of tech experiments they were doing out in the field, and they actually brought some UFOs into their area. And they told me that a lot of the stuff that they was really exciting, the show cut out because, sometimes with these networks, certain things don't fit there,
So you got to have a cutaway.
Finding Bigfoot. If you find Bigfoot, what's going to happen to the rest of your show? You can't have any more shows because you found Bigfoot. So, whatever.
No, I always joked around. It's like that one episode. I think Bobo, his favorite thing where he was laying out all the favorite foods of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And I think all he did is he just rated craft service, and he just wanted an excuse to eat on camera.
I think he was probably stoned out of his mind, and he was just thinking of all the munchies he wanted to get on, because he was a roadie for Sublime. So think about all the drugs he's done.
Oh yeah, I mean he had everything. He had bacon. He had all this stuff just laid out. I mean, it just these. I mean, I get it. It's it's foraging. It's like campers. You're gonna have this stuff. But I was like, yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm like, no, that's your favorite snack food. I
do think bacon might draw them in though. I've heard it. I've heard it a couple times. Bacon. If you fry bacon out in the woods, you're gonna bring something in. Whether it's Bigfoot, coyote, wolf, bear, whatever. Something's coming to smell that bacon. Because I mean, who doesn't like bacon?
One of us hiking in the woods that just decides to become good friends with you. Yeah.
Just don't break down Jack Link's jerky, okay?
Oh, I know. Oh, God, those commercials. Those are fantastic. I love those things.
Yes.
All right, Tom. Well, hey, appreciate it, man. Have a great night. Thanks for joining in. We'll do another one of these things, and we'll figure out what the next one we want to do. We'll look at the list, figure it out. So, all right, that was a Beast of Bladenboro. Two molders and one Director Skinner. That's what we got from that one. All right, everybody. So this episode was brought to you by Nanny Cakes. Nancy Burke. We need to bring up the thing here. Hey, there it is. 407-923-2898 is a phone number in the Central Florida area, or go to Nanny Cakes 407 on Facebook. Mention Three Beards Podcast, and you're going to save 15% on your cake order. You can have it shipped to you. It's not going to show up pretty, but it's going to taste amazing. Like I said, we'll throw in a custom spork for you too to help you enjoy that. So that doesn't change. Redbubble.com is our Three Beards Podcast. We may have to come up with some shirt to do this, for this segment. Like that. I think that might be something we have to think about doing. So this show is rebroadcast on Zeno Radio app every Thursday night at 10 p.m. courtesy of Patriot Radio. Download the app. Look up Patriot Radio, and it is brought to you by J&J Beard Company out of New Jersey. And tell them, thank you for putting us on there. Appreciate that. You can go to patreon.com and adopt one of us beards, or just go to Redbubble. Like I said before, buy some merchandise. We appreciate that. But everybody, social media, just take a quick second to subscribe on YouTube, Facebook. Like that. Tom Kardos, the North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project on Facebook. Go over there, click in to join. I'm sure he's going to accept you with open arms.
Absolutely.
And so you guys are almost at 2,000, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it shows 2,000, but we're not quite. I think we're maybe 1980 or something like that. Because the way the algorithm works, Facebook, it's funny, but they'll tell you 2,000, but you really don't have exactly. But I appreciate it, and I've really had a good time tonight. And I'm looking forward to doing it again, guys. It was awesome.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, no, this is great. No, we have a good time.
My bearded brothers, even though I don't have a beard, I'm like you guys. You guys got those brolic, gnarly beards, like something you see on a commercial with the guy cutting down a tree with a flannel on, and he's
I got
ass afterwards. It's cool shit,
I got the chainsaw. Maybe one of these times I'll have it, because I still brought that with me because I was like, if I'm going down where there's hurricanes, I'm gonna be able to cut me a palm tree. Yes. So I still have my chainsaw. I got rid of the chaps and all the other gear, because I don't plan on falling too many trees down here. It's paradise. Don't want to cut those down.
Y'all have a great night.
All right, guys, have a good night. Like I said, we'll see everybody.
Chris, Craig.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.